Kathy, thank you so much for taking the time to work with me today to create this model video. And this is one way that folks can choose to show their reflection on how they've grown and met the challenges of this past year. And so I think it's wonderful that you will take the time to answer and ask three of the model questions with me today. And I hope people, if they want to, can watch this video and feel free to share it with students. And hopefully it will provide just one kind of mental model for people to think of how they might show what they've developed and learned over the course of this year. So thanks so much for taking the time.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm honored to engage in this, um, really this investigation. Reflection is really important in the classroom and in life. And so I'd love to offer up the first question to you, Ellen. What was different about your routines and in your habits this past year? I mean, when you think about that question, how would you respond?
And I think there were positive and negative kinds of aspects. But the funny thing is, it ended up being more positive than negative. So I think that I developed routines for my own well being. And so I made sure to bookend my day with exercise. My diet became more improved and focused, and I was sleeping better. Just once we got through the kind of the trauma of the change, I did find that I was much more disciplined in making sure that I got the sleep that I needed. The negative aspect of it was that sense of isolation, and my routine was very isolating. It was, I was alone a lot, and that was very challenging. And then when we returned to school in the fall, the isolation abated some, but it was still pretty isolating because of the way that we really needed to be careful with each other, and the fact that we kind of came back gradually, and that there's still time at home where we're working on our own, um, independently. And so I had to develop routines during that really individualized time that kept me organized and kept me focused, and then helped me to be able to adapt to in school and out of school time in a way where I was able to stay on top of everything all the way through. From a lifestyle, piece, I do feel that, my life slowed down a bit. And in some ways, that was really positive. So, how about for you? What was different about your routines and habits over the
Well,
course of the year?
I'm reflecting as I'm hearing you answer on my experience and professionally, my routines. What I found is suddenly having to teach online, I had to do almost more planning or different sorts of planning than I would in person. Um, because I had to front load everything and send things out several classes in advance and plan ahead. I always plan ahead, but in a much more specific way. That was a new routine and habit that I had to get into, thinking ahead, um, choosing readings, designing sheets, facilitating um, assignments. It was a different challenge than doing it in person. I think most people would agree. Um, and I've always been pretty disciplined in my professional life with my work, and then I would try to fit in the personal around that. But I did find that taking care of my mental and physical health, as you said, suddenly became even more important. I spent a lot of time last winter and summer outside, snowshoeing, hiking, biking, being in the fresh air, just trying to maintain balance and equanimity. I had a hard time sleeping. I think I was experiencing stress at a very deep level, that it took me a long time to to acknowledge. But the importance of balance became much more salient and critical for me, because there was no vacation from COVID, you
Mm,
know. So different professional routines and different personal routines that developed intentional self-care. Really important.
Great. Thank you.
Um, and and that's related to our second question. What do you feel the effect of these changes in routines and habits? What do you feel the effect was on you both personally and professionally?
Thanks. So, personally, I felt much more committed to maintaining these healthful routines. And I believe that it has really contributed to an overall sense of feeling maybe more in control. After reflecting on your answer, I think part of what COVID gave us was this feeling like life wasn't within our control in a way that we had thought it was before. And so I think these routines and habits have helped me to feel like I have a sense of control personally, which I think then can kind of help me professionally to be more focused and really take advantage of the opportunities that existed. And so, from moving from that sense of isolation to being able to use all of the tools available to me to be able to collaborate with students and teachers and take advantage of the time that we had to be able to really work together deeply and meaningfully. I also feel like I started to embrace technology more than I have in the past, and that technology has allowed us to reach so far into the world. And so my routines of using technology to reach out to people all over the state and even all over the country, for students to be able to do some exploring, I think that's something that has been a huge change for me professionally this year, and I actually see this as being something I want to explore for the remainder of my career is how can I use technology in a way that really works effectively with students. I also think that it one of the things that it made me do is really think about what was most important to attend to in each day and really making a point of focusing on the most important pieces and not trying to do everything, but trying to do each thing well and with focus. And so I think that is a thing that changed about me professionally and maybe a little bit personally too. How about for you, Kathy? What was the effect of these changes on you personally and professionally?
Well, I'm smiling because I think they are, as you were saying, profound and important ones. Professionally, first, it was hard for me to learn to live with less. It was hard to me to learn to live with fewer contact minutes with students, less time together, and just accepting that the new more is less, living with that, and learning to let go of old expectations that I would have for a course I've always taught. But that was good. I think it was hard, but it really thinking about prioritizing, as you said, what's really important, what are critical components of teaching and learning, strategizing how can I deliver them, how can I engage students, and then most importantly, how can I connect. So the letting go was a freedom in a way. I didn't really discover it until we've gotten into it. Um, and I think the use of technology, also I've really expanded my use of technology, and we've done community dialogues with 115 people using this technology now, and held classes in ways that I never would have chosen to do, but now I know we can do them. I think personally, um, it's about challenges, about balance. It's all about maintaining balance and equanimity when one's under stress. Um, and uh, I think I became much more self-aware of my place in the world, my strengths and my many challenges, and feeling that each moment that we have now is precious with our families, to be in nature, um, to take that time, that extra second for one another, maybe be it a student or a family member. I was grateful for the chance to slow down and be in the moment and not plan and worry about the future or ruminate about the past. So I think there's still some lessons that I am still learning. And in another year, if we had this conversation again, I probably would have other things, more profound things to add. It's a time of learning, including skills, new skills. What skills did you need to learn? What new skills did you need to learn, or what skills did you need to strengthen, personally and professionally? Ellen, you're muted.
I think probably the most important thing that I needed to learn was prioritization and being able to really look at everything that was on my plate and determine what really needed to be at the center of the plate and focus on that first. And that was always a struggle for me. I think I wanted to do everything, and you can't do everything. And I think that this has really taught me a lot about how important it is to look at my list and determine what's most important on the list and take care of that. And of course, most of that, if not all of it, centers around students, and doing what's best, for what they need, and asking myself the question, is this what's best for the kids? Is this what's best for the students with whom I'm working? And then my colleagues, and really thinking about my colleagues, and how can I be of support to colleagues? How can I reach out to colleagues? That became really important to me. That ability to collaborate and learn from, the people who are going through this with me became even more important. And I hope that that skill of prioritizing, and I think part of that is really listening, to other people, and using that information to make decisions that are sound in how I use my time. I think that may have been probably the biggest skill. We talked about technology, and I think I've gotten better at technology. But if you asked me if I had to pick one that I felt that I really needed to, very much strengthen, it would be the ability to find a way to really prioritize what's important and tackle that, and take on other things if the time allowed.
Yeah, yeah. Um, that really resonates with me. I'm always someone who I'm very enthusiastic and like to take on lots of projects. And for me, it was learning to curb the enthusiasm and to have to match my enthusiasm with the reality of the moment, with the reality of what we can do. When we were totally remote or when we're hybrid. Again, it's adjusting expectations to meet current realities. And not, as I said before, not necessarily learning to see that not as a letting go, but just as a reprioritizing. And I think developing the skills of really being present when you only have students 2 days a week, to really be present. And sometimes that's not only being present with the content, it's being present with them as people, as young people, and present with my colleagues. I've loved the conversations that I've had this year with colleagues. They're different conversations. Oftentimes they're more about family dynamics or issues or challenges or personal habits or joys, not always about work, because we're connecting, as you said, as human beings. That's priceless. I'm grateful for that. Learning how to stop and listen deeply is a skill. I've been forced to learn that in a whole new way, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to reflect with me. And I feel that I got so much out of hearing your responses, and it sparked for me, like, yeah, that happened for me too, you know. So sometimes it really helps to hear other people reflecting because it makes you realize that there's so many things that you didn't think about that came out because of this conversation. So I really appreciate it.
Well, it's fun. And for anyone who's watching this, this was completely unrehearsed, by the way. This was just in the moment. But having you ask me these questions, that's helpful. That's helpful for me to think about, you know. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.